In this lesson we will talk about such things as 1. Common update, 2. Development environments, and so common updates. For example, let's set the task, refactor common, file base root. Let's open it up and take a look at it, but let's take a look at the schema validation variable. This scheme is used to validate the controller, which we saw the implementation in the previous lessons. I will leave the detailed work of this validation to you as homework. You should study the mechanism of work. Now let's talk about structure. In good practice, the class should only do one thing. In this case, storing the validation in the root class is not very good. We need to transfer it to the global validator, which is in the common. Let's go to it and see it. Let's open the validator.js file. We can see various checks for types, emails, objects, etc. Let's transfer the validation schema here. Let's not forget to add the modules that are necessary for schema validation to work: asserts, error codes, error wrapper. Okay, now we need to update our common on the npm server. Next, to update our common in the log service. We will automate this work in the future, but for now we have learned the principle of common development. Development environments. Let's remember that we plan to do two development environments, developer and production. We are currently using a production mod, which we can see if we go to the global config file and look at the env constant. Now let's remember which modules we use to manage processes in various environments. Let's go to the process launch file, to our package.json. We look at the scripts block and we can see what we are using: PM2 for production, nodemon for the developer. They differ in that in the developer mode, nodemon restarts the process always after updating the file. That is, any file that is updated, nodemon will automatically detect and reload the process so that the changes are pulled up. PM2 needs to be restarted manually. Let's check it out. Let's go to the logger validation file and change the validation. Now let's open the Postman client and make a request. We see that our changes do not work because we are using a prod mod and we need to manually update the process. We can update processes in two ways: through the Docker interface or through the console. Let's update through the Docker interface. Open the interface, select the logger service and click Restart. The process has been updated and now we go to the Postman client and try to send a request with new data again. As you can see now the new changes are working. Let's update the container via the console. We need to connect to the Docker container via the console and update the PM2 process. Let's go to the README file. We see the command to connect to the Docker container. First we need to find out the ID of the container. Let's find out, enter the following command. We see all running containers. Each container has parameters including ID. We find the ID logger container and copy it. Now we connect to the container with the following command with the ID parameter. We have successfully entered the container. Let's check all running processes. Let's enter the command and see our process logger. Let's change the logger validation back and restart the process. Our process has restarted and now we will open the Postman client and send a request with new parameters. As you can see, everything worked great. Let's connect the mod developer to our logger service. To do this, we will have to rebuild our service. Docker has a nuance, it's a cache. If you rebuild services too often, then the Docker will cache and our changes will not become. Let's go to the env file and write the developer mode. Let's go to the README and find the command to rebuild the services and copy it to the console indicating our service. We are waiting for a service rebuild. Let's open two windows to check, Docker interface and IDE. Let's open any logger service file and make a change. As you can see, after each change, the service is automatically restarted, which means that our dev mode is working fine. Let's push our service to GitHub. Don't forget to add npm files and package lock to Gitigner. See you in the next lessons.